Hello again, my name is Tyson, and in this video I'm going to explain how to get into the cycle anaerobic threshold test function of the ambiotex app. So again, we'll open the ambiotex app, and I'd like to explain that the tech unit that I have is just sitting on the counter. It's not connected to a vital short or on me, and that's why it's not reading any heart rate or anything. And that's okay for demonstration purposes here. So at the bottom of the home screen here, there is 3 icons, one of which is a stopwatch. We'll go ahead and press that stopwatch icon, and in case this is the only video you've seen, I'll explain this again. And it's at the top right of the screen, there's a plus sign. That plus sign is how you create the custom activities that you see here listed, like I have, right? And you can go ahead and go into that, and you can name your activity. You can choose whether or not to use GPS. You can label whether this is going to be a low, moderate, or high effort for you for your tracking purposes. And then you can select whether to use the running, cycling, or the third, or none at all, anaerobic threshold marker. When you're recording an activity and you're actually doing that activity, all you can see on your screen is a speedometer, which shows you your heart rate. And on that speedometer, there's a tick mark where your anaerobic threshold is. So this chooses where that tick mark is, depending on which test you've taken. So, and then the colors down below are just for your organizational purposes. What you'll see if you open up your app brand new is just outdoor activities, indoor activities, 3 of each likely, and then down at the bottom, you won't have all of those, but down at the bottom there will be a section for tests. And in the tests, there's, like I said, the anaerobic threshold test at the top, which is for running on a treadmill, and then the cycle anaerobic threshold test in the middle, which is what we're going to talk about today, and then the stress test, which is a separate one, and I'll talk about in a different video. So right now we're going to open up the cycle anaerobic threshold test, and we're going to see that it begins to tell you some things about what you're going to experience. And if you watched the other video about the performance test on the treadmill, you'll know what I'm talking about, but if not, I'll just talk about it as if it's brand new. And so what this is going to do is going to calculate your individual anaerobic threshold and personal heart rate zones and their boundaries. And it's a step test, so it gives you an amount of power to produce on the bicycle or on the cycle, and then you do that for a specified amount of time, and it asks you to increase those watts. Watts are how you measure it on the bike, and every 3 minutes. And then you do that until you can't anymore. I'll go through that more in a little bit, but let's see, right down here is you see 3 selections: beginner, normal, and advanced. And what those are is they're going to change your starting wattage and your wattage per increase. So let's just go with beginner, so that because a lot of people will be using beginner, and you want to maybe start out when you don't know what's coming on the low one, and if it was too easy for you or whatever, go back and do a different one. But so for the beginner, it says please configure ergometer as follows. It says anaerobic.cycling.setup.ascent, which you don't need to pay attention to, but the starting load and load increase per step are what we're looking at. So the starting load will be 50 watts, and then the load increase per step will be 20 watts. So the first time they ask you to increase from your beginning speed of, or beginning power of 50 watts, it will then go to 70 watts, right? And then 90 after that. And if you scroll down a little bit, it kind of tells you the process, but I'll explain it in my way too. So the process is that you're going to warm up for about 10 minutes to get ready for the test, just like it says. However, when you press start test, it gives you that 10-minute timer before the test starts, so you could just get on the cycle and go for the 10 minutes that it prescribes. But if you've already warmed up previously to that, you can skip that guided 10 minutes in the beginning too. So I'll show you that. And then during the test, voice messages will announce new 3-minute load phases, and that's accurate. There's a voice that tells you to increase your wattage or power to X amount, and then for the next 3 minutes, and she says that every 3 minutes. And then it says when you reach your maximum performance, end the test and cool down. Now that's an important point. So what it means is that you're going to be asked to increase the power you produce every 3 minutes, and eventually you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You're going to be all gassed out. And when that happens is when you are, when you've said you had enough subjective maximum, right? So as soon as you can say that I can't do any more and you got to end the test, you'll press the end test button, and then after that you're going to have 5 more minutes that you need to go back to the beginning speed at which you started and complete 5 minutes at that beginning speed. So if we look up here, our starting load for a beginner was going to be 50 watts. So at the end of the test, however long it went for you, you pressed end test, then you have to go back and produce 50 watts for 5 minutes. And during that time, the ambiotex vital shirt is listening to your heart rate. It's measuring your heart rate recovery, your heart rate variability, and it's measuring your respiration. And the measures of stress on your body and how well you recover from that standardized stress, or from that that high amount of stress you just put yourself through in the performance test. It uses those factors, measuring that recovery for you in all of its calculations. So it's very important that even though you've pressed the end test button, you do the 5 minutes of prescribed cool down in order to get accurate readings. All right, and then so it also says here to exceed your notional threshold, and whatever that number is going to be for you, it just means that you should have gotten higher than that number at least. It doesn't mean to stop when you get to that number. It means that you need to have exceeded that through the test at least, or you weren't going hard enough, or there's some other limitation that we need to address. So if you press start test,
warm up for 10 minutes to get ready for test.
Tells you to warm up for 10 minutes, get ready for test, just like I was talking about. And you don't see the beats per minute here, but you will if your vital shirt was on and connected correctly. And then it gives you a 10-minute timer. That's pretty simple. If you've already warmed up, or you feel warm at 8 minutes or something, you can just press start test.
Start the test now with 50.0 watt.
And it tells you start the test now at 50.0 watt. And so you're on the cycle now, and you're producing 50 watts, and you're watching your timer. You can watch it go, and then when it gets to 3 minutes have passed, it will ask you, please increase power to 70 watt, 70.0 watt. And you need to do that again until you can't anymore. And then you press end test and do the cool down for 5 minutes. So that is how to get into and begin the cycling performance test. And that will help you, again, determine your individual anaerobic threshold and your personal heart rate zones and their boundaries. So I hope that helped, and I'll see you in the next video.